All right, hello. So we are a team of interdisciplinary students representing the Green Program here today, and we're going to talk about the importance of environmental justice and waste management. I'm Alina Andrews, an anthropology and geography major at California Polytechnic State University in San Luis Obispo.
I'm Melissa DaCosta. I'm an industrial engineering major at Pennsylvania State University.
I'm Brett Hickes. I'm a geography major with a focus in geographic information systems at Pennsylvania State University.
And I'm Olivia McKay, an environmental earth and soil science student at Cal Poly as well.
I'm Abigail Beckham. I'm an anthropology and geosciences major at Smith College.
Now, before I talk about, dive into the meat of our presentation, I just want to go over the inspiration for our project. So we all came together as a team because we're passionate about environmental injustice. And so we come from a bunch of different cities in the United States, notably California, Boston, New York, and New Jersey, and we all have noticed the stark contrast between rich and poor communities in urban areas. And it is quite obvious to us that many of these communities that are underrepresented are going to face the blunt of the negative consequences of climate change and environmental degradation. So in many developing countries, there are open-air dump sites, and these dump sites plague minority communities or communities that lack resources with environmental pollution and contaminated drinking water and health risks. And in the United States, even though we have sanitary landfills, these landfills are still largely found in poorer communities, and these poorer communities face these same environmental consequences and same risks to their health. We drew a large part of our inspiration from Majora Carter, and Majora Carter is a TED Talk speaker, and she's also an American urban revitalization strategist. And she did a TED Talk called Greening the Ghetto, and basically she talked about environmental injustices in the South Bronx of New York. And her definition of environmental justice is the idea that no community should be saddled with more environmental burdens and less environmental benefits than any other community. And there are statistics to back this up. For example, Black people are twice as likely as white people to live in an area where air pollution is the greatest risk to their health, and they are also 5 times more likely to live within walking distance of a chemical facility, a power plant, or in this case, landfills, which is what we are focusing on today. So these hostile environments are affecting minority communities in the states, and our project is directed at serving these communities and fostering education as power, so that we can uplift these communities and make a strive towards equality in America. So now I'm going to introduce Britt, and he's going to talk about data that we created and used for our project.
Okay, so the case study in which we conducted it on the state of New York, the same way that Majora Carter did. And the reason for this is because New York is one of the trash hubs of the United States. It has a large population, trash is exported in there, and there's also a good amount of counties with a good amount of trash receptacles located throughout the county. So one of the maps that we created mapped median household income over top of the total count of each of the counties. And in light blue, you can see the counties with under 28 trash receptacles, and in the next standard deviations under 59. And then in the next one, which is an outlier, Suffolk County has around 163 trash receptacles. Which we use that is because there's outliers such as Suffolk County and Nassau, and median is a much better representation of center than the average. So the highlighted counties here, which have stars next to them, Jefferson, Erie, Chautauqua, Allegheny, Onondaga, and Oneida, they are all counties that are under the median household income for the entire nation, which is $57,000. So median household income, that means for both parents, so if there's 2 parents in the house, that is all calculated in the median household income. So moving on. As you can see, this is a map, a point density map of all the different trash receptacles, either open or closed, throughout the United States. And as you can see, there's a direct direct correlation between population and the amount of landfills around the nation. You can see these trash hubs all along the coast of California, such as Los Angeles, San Francisco, and San Jose, right here. And then we have one huge one in Texas, and then high density population down in Florida. You can see there's a lot of the landfills. And in the Midwest, there's much less because obviously the population per square mile is much less. And then Chicago, and then obviously, like I talked about earlier, the reason which we use New York is because it's a huge hub for population. So this is a list of all the active MSW landfills, which is municipal solid waste. And municipal solid waste is all of your waste receptacles that you use day to day. It's your trash, your garbage, it's your plastics, your all that types of stuff. So as you can see, they're pretty well laid out across all the counties. But what we found is that most of the counties in which have the higher amounts of trash receptacles, they also have these lower incomes. So next, I'll hand it over to Olivia. Alyssa.
Okay, so after recognizing all these issues, our group came together and created RUSH. It means Trash in Icelandic and also stands for the acronym Rise Up and Save the Land. So we will be starting in New York, as Britt had mentioned, and our goal is to go nationally and then eventually globally. So the educational component that our app will use is to really educate and empower all the communities to make better choices throughout their daily lives and more sustainable choices. But we also want to bring awareness to the issue of waste management. We will have an interactive map, and this map will be very easy for all of our users to use, including the name, phone number, address, and type of waste collection at their local facilities. We will have a calendar for any fundraising events that we hold and community service events that we hold, but we also want to make sure that they get involved in their communities with other community service events that anyone in their county or towns are holding as well. Then we will finally have the donors page. The donors page will really highlight and give shout outs to our frequent donors or the donors who give us a lot of money and any work that they do for us. And we also will have our donor link that will have access to current donations that people are willing to get. So this is an example of our interface. As you can see, the name, address, phone number, and type of waste collection is all included. You can click more information if the type of waste doesn't really make sense to you. And for example, Any Waste LLC, if you click for more information, you'll see asphalt, shingles, wood, drywall, metal, cardboard, clothing, furniture, carpeting. It's just a clarification of what they accept if you don't really know. And then we have value proposition. So this mainly will be to empower and educate as many communities as we can, specifically minority communities, because they're really the ones that will be affected the most. This then leads me to customer segmentation. The people in these areas will be the ones that we want to help, and we will help clear out their areas and make them a little bit better organized. But we also recognize that these people don't always have many resources and are effective athletes, so we want to reach out to people who have more power and privilege to really make the change, and that way the change will trickle down the system. And then finally, we have our SDG goals. So the two goals we're focusing on are 10 and 11. And we're really trying to complete this through education and community involvement in hopes to help lead those communities to acknowledge these discrepancies and make great effective changes.
Okay, so as an NGO, we need to rely on our volunteers for the majority of our operations. And we also need to rely heavily on donations. And we're hoping to have fundraisers annually in order to increase donations and reach out to different parts of the community that wouldn't necessarily have access to us in the beginning. And we need the community's support to attend our fundraising event, like partaking in raffles or other donation-based events. And another key aspect of our app survival would be a partnership with a tech company, because so far none of us know how to create an app. And we need someone to create the app itself and run the app and then provide updates, because the tech world is changing constantly, so we'd want to be able to stay on top of it. And another thing that we hope to reach would be a partnership with a Fortune 500 company focusing on e-waste, so companies like Apple or Amazon that are constantly putting out electronic materials, because it would be really mutually beneficial for them to be able to look more environmental, and then for us to have more publicity with such a big name. And a big part of our organization is to get our community involved. Like without that relationship, we wouldn't be able to survive. In order to do so, we will be hosting talks in schools and community centers to spread awareness about local waste centers and provide more information. The app will also have a 24/7 live chat where users can ask questions or even sign up to volunteer, and this part of the app will be run by volunteers. We also will create a Facebook page in addition to the app. In the Facebook page, we will post messages, provide pictures from our local events, and also have last minute reaching out to the community for help if we need it. And if we choose to partner with local private companies to disperse our information, that will also increase our relationship with our customers and the community, because it's providing business to local communities and like having more of a reach out to the specific communities that we're working with. And now Abigail is going to talk about funding.
So obviously we can't pull an app out of thin air. So we would be looking for around $100,000 to start. The first cost that we would come into is for research. We would be looking into where waste sites are, what kind of waste is there, all of that. And most of this would be through volunteer research, but they do require some support. The bulk of the cost would go to the app itself. It would cost at least $50,000 to hire a team to develop an app, and then an additional money to license and maintain the app. So then after that, we have advertising, general business costs, and volunteer support. Volunteer support would be kind of a more minimal cost, but we want to thank the people that are helping us, obviously. And then general businesses, taxes exist, unfortunately, so we have to, work with that. And we need a fundraising budget to hold raffles, whatever it is that we're going to do. And then the rest of it would go towards advertising so that we can reach as many people as possible. And we would be working with Google or Facebook or et cetera to try and reach as many people as possible. And then where are we getting $100,000? In order to keep our app available to as many people as possible, we don't want to charge a downloading fee. So instead, we would run mostly off of donations and, as Olivia mentioned, a partnership with the tech company. So in the beginning, we could start with a crowdfunding campaign or a GoFundMe. And then once the app is available, we would have an option in the app to donate. We would also have in-app advertisements from businesses, private investors, and annual fundraising events, such as selling sustainable products, holding raffles and galas. And then there's also some funding opportunities from the U.S. Economic Development Administration and the EPA Green Infrastructure funding opportunities. These would mostly be in the form of $10,000 to $30,000 grants, and getting even one of these would go a very long way. Any loans we would receive would most likely be from the EDA, and we would be able to pay these back, ideally within the first 2 to 5 years. The rest of our revenue would come from our partnership with the tech company, as I mentioned, and also from donations. Overall, our goal is to implement and educate about sustainable waste management practices through our app, and also to empower underrepresented individuals.
It was just a comment from Morgan at Reykjavik University. He just says thanks for the presentation. I think you guys should actually do it. Yes. Questions?
Thanks, Morgan.
John.
Do you guys think that with this app you could go like worldwide and then try to help other countries do the same thing?
That was our that's our initial, or not initial, but that's our eventual goal, because we hope it will work in New York, which is so diverse and has a bunch of different people on the spectrum of like wealth and all of that. But we realize that the U.S. is not the only place in the world, so that like a lot of poor companies are located everywhere, and we want to reach them as well. We would try it out first.
Okay, I was going to say the one thing that's kind of a limit on that is that the majority of people in the U.S. have smartphones. I think it's 60 to 70% have an iPhone, and then like 95% of people have a smartphone. But we can't count on that in developing countries that everybody will have a phone, and that's mainly how we reach our communities and our like individuals that we want to help. So that is like the only limitation, but hopefully in the future that might change. But that's why we're focusing on New York in the beginning.